On today's show, Tyler Jones is back with part 2 of 2 on the offseason outlook, and we get into that right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1700. Yes, that's episode 1700 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Sunday into Monday. And today's show is brought to you by the folks at Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly game. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go right now for free on the App Store or Google Play Store. Also, I want to encourage you, as I always do at the top of the podcast, to make us your first listen each and every day. Subscribe to the show and listen to us on Apple and Spotify and YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. And today's show will focus on part 2 of 2, actually, with my friend Tyler Jones, always a requested guest of the podcast. Always fun talking to Tyler about big picture, the details, all that fun stuff. And part 1 is available in your podcast feed of choice right now. So if you found this first, listen to part 1. The show is in free-flowing order, so listen to that one first for sure for the entire experience. But without any more delay, here's the rest of that conversation with myself and Tyler. Part 2 is coming to you right now. So it's a good time to kind of reset and talk about something beyond Trey DeJounte, which is the whole construct of it really ends up being the defensive side of the floor for the most part, about like what they need to do, because Sadiq is a pending free agent. He's also not going to play until February, March, which is brutal. I mean, everybody likes Sadiq. It's a brutal injury. It's not good. I think they're going to bring him back probably because he's restricted. They'll probably get a pretty good deal on him because he is hurt, which is, again, unfortunate for him. But for this next season, you can't rely on Sadiq. You just can't. And we won't do discussion now, but I think Sadiq is, for me, a bench forward, not a starter. Even when healthy. And that's not – he's a rotation guy. I think he's a useful player, not a starter, ideally. You still have DeAndre. You still have Jalen. But they famously, as we discussed many times, they came into the last season with 3 forwards. One of those 3 forwards is hurt and not on the team right now. He's going to be a free agent. You could say that Vita is going to be on the team, which I think is probably a safe bet. Vita is more of a pure wing than a forward size guy. He's 6'8", but he's very skinny. He's more of a wing. He's more of a 2-3 for sure. And even then, while I know I'm with you, Vita had a really nice breakout. It was also a month in March, and we don't 100% know what Vita is going to be. I hope that he's the guy he showed, because that would be a very, very useful player for the Hawks. But
they shouldn't be coming into next season with Vita penciled in as a starter. That's not like he shouldn't have been starting games. No.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I'm glad you said that. Just that's very concise, because like I get it. People are excited about Vita, but they have to think of Vita responsibly. They can't just be like he's going to be awesome. They don't know.
That's fair, but they need to be realistic about DeAndre Hunter. Like,
of course they should be. I'm with you 100%. He's also under contract for 3 more years. I don't think that he's got in fact, I know he doesn't have super positive trade value. So realistically, they could actively try to trade him just to get him off the roster. But again, they don't have forward depth. So you're trading from a position of weakness already on the contract. You don't have a replacement for him. I think that it's likely he's probably back on the team, if I had to guess. Jalen, of course, will be there. But they need to get another forward. They already needed one. They probably need 2, to be honest. Especially because if you assume Sadiq's not going to play much at all this year, you probably need 2 forwards. And maybe Mo Gay is one of those guys. Maybe they're going to bank on Mo Gay playing a lot of minutes next year.
I think Mo Gay is the center, but that's a –
They don't think –
I mean –
and maybe to defend that, I think that Quinn has said there's a lot of versatility with Mo Gay, which I agree with. You can play him at the 4. They think he's more of a 4 than a 5. I think defensively is the question. They haven't said this. I think that they don't believe Mo Gay is a defensive center. I think he's an offensive center, to be honest. But I think that they can't really see him anchored. Maybe he'll make a huge leap. We'll see. But he's in the mix. But just before I get yelled at, he's kind of like Vita in that like you can't necessarily bank on Mo Gay being a 25-minute player next year. It might happen. But you can't go into the season planning on that because we just have not seen it. He didn't play. The injuries this year, the flashes are incredible. His talent, his raw talent level is very high. But maybe you combine Veit and Moge in your head into one rotation player. Like you could bank on one of those guys or combination of those guys being one, but you still have to get another forward or two. And how they do that is a question. Like maybe it happens in a DeJounte trade. Maybe it happens with your number 10 overall pick. But even then, that's a rookie. Rookies are not good.
And we know about this draft. There's nobody at 10.
No, I don't think, and I would say it's about any draft, but especially this draft, there is not a guy that I think is going to be there at 10, or really in the entire draft, to be honest with you, that I would pencil in as a rotation player on a good team next year.
Like, I think, to me, like, I think Donovan Clingan might be the best, most impactful player.
I agree.
I don't want him starting for my team. And
also, he probably won't be available at 10.
Yeah. So
I don't think that might change, but based on where he kind of got to in the cycle, we'll save draft for later, but I think he's going to go before them. But no matter what, so they have to figure out
finding more forwards in general.
Yeah,
has to be the plan because like
and the resources are limited. They don't have. Now, I'm not going to do the tax discussion today. I'll do it later, but they've not signaled a willingness to pay the tax. Even if you think they're going to do it now, the mechanism to get a forward is hard because, yeah, they could use the mid-level. They didn't use it this year. Maybe they could use it next year. That might be your way to do it. Maybe they go use the mid-level on a forward. That'd be great. I don't know who that guy's going to be yet. That'd be great. If they don't want to pay the tax, and I'm not saying I have not gotten to the point yet where I'm saying they're not going to, like I have in the past. I don't know yet. But if they don't want to pay the tax, trying to get a forward means you're trading someone on your roster, and in that trade, getting a forward back. And that means the guys that I think logically they would probably try to trade in some, maybe not try, but would evaluate trading is DeJounte and Clint. Clint's not going to get you a forward.
Brad, honestly, I would add DeAndre. I know DeAndre is a forward.
No, they could trade him, but I think that you're just magnifying the problem again. Like you still have to get another guy.
Yes and no, and I say this with the utmost respect for what DeAndre did this season because he was good offensively, and sometimes I couldn't believe what he was doing. But is what he does overall more valuable than like what Max Strus does? If we're we're being honest, like, and I say this, I'm like, I watch him play, I watch Sadiq play. Like, I'd rather have a better shooter at that position.
Well, like, you could go that way.
I'd rather have an archetype, not Dylan Windler, because I don't think he's good enough, but I'm talking about the archetype of elite shooting forward-sized player off the bench than what DeAndre Hunter is, which is again. Fine basketball player, useful basketball player, useful two-way player. But you're paying $20 million for a guy who, at the end of the day, is not a difference maker.
Well, and
starter caliber.
By the way, we agree on that at this point, and I tried to stress this at the end of the season on the show by myself. Like, I think DeAndre Hunter is a pretty good basketball player. That contract is not a positive, and he also, for whatever reason, there was still this hope in year 5 that he was going to be a different player. And by the way, he actually had his best season. He took more threes. He got to the line more. Like, he did get better in the areas that he could get better in. That's nice for sure. But it also tells you that, they need to have a better guy there ideally. And also, like, not to keep going on this, but we talked about earlier, when you are, especially if they were to say, we're going to try it again with Trey and DeJounte, and you have the same problems you had in the backcourt, size-wise, defense-wise. The only way to make that work, I think, if they were just like dead set on keeping DeJounte and Trey together one more time, would be to make a significant change on the wing. And by the way, Jalen's not going anywhere. So like there's one spot you have to circle there, and it's like, all right, what are you going to do with the 3? Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. You win up to 100 times the money on your Prize Picks entries with just as little as 4 correct picks. That's right. For example, turn $10 into $1,000 with an entry today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. And they have something for every single sports fan in your life. That means basketball and hockey and League of Legends, everything in between. And Prize Picks is also the best way to get on the action in more than 30 states across the country. That includes Georgia, of course, in addition to California and Texas. If you want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players, you also find them in the community plays under the promo tabs of the app when it comes to viewing entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each and every week. They have injury insurance. Your entries actually stay in play even if one of your players happens to be injured. That's very helpful. It's also really simple to play at Prize Picks. You make your picks and submit an entry in just 60 seconds or less. It's that quick, that easy. That's huge for me. And just because I don't have that much time, and one of the biggest reasons why I've really enjoyed playing there over the last few years. They have quick withdrawals. They have easy gameplay, an enormous selection of stat types and players that you can't find anywhere else. That helps you to make the Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. Download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for first-time deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app. It's Prize Picks and use code LOCKEDONNBA when you get there. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks.
I mean, and I hate that. I hate to keep, because it sounds like I'm bashing DeAndre.
No, he's
he's a better basketball player than V. Krejci, but V. Krejci was more valuable than this season. He just was. I watched that Bulls game. I'm watching the Bulls game. We talked about this on the last 18 on 29. I'm like, they just needed a guy to break the paint, to get into the paint, kick out for an open 3-point shooter. That's what V does on offense, and he doesn't turn the ball over. And then defensively, V can guard Kobe White. V can guard at point guard, and he can guard at DeMar DeRozan. Is he like, you know what I'm saying? Like instead of DeAndre, who has no ability to guard point guards anymore.
That is actually a sneaky thing that people should realize about Hunter. Yeah.
The second he became unable to guard point guards is the second the Hawks should have deprioritized him as a basketball player.
Right, because
that's the reality.
So there's two things there. I 100% agree with you because it really hurts your versatility, again, because of the backcourt. You need someone on the wing that can defend guards. You need that person because the idea was that Johnson was going to do that. He has proven that he cannot. That has been proven over 2 seasons. He cannot be your #1 primary defender on the perimeter. He can't be it. So you would, in theory, like your 3 to be that guy. If you had Herb Jones, yeah, Herb Jones could do that. They used to have, as you know very well, but for listeners, they used to have Hunter defend guards. His first couple years in the league, he did that a lot. They don't do that anymore. Hunter's still their best guy. I still believe he's their best guy on a big wing. He's their best guy on Luka. He's their best guy on DeRozan. He's their best guy on Tatum.
Jalen would have been. There are certain big, like I feel like Jalen would have been a lot better on DeRozan.
Well, maybe that's Jalen. There's a discussion about Jalen for later. I think next year, I think Jalen will be that guy.
No, I mean,
it's an experience thing for Jalen more than anything else.
Yeah, there's certain things, but
he makes mistakes. It's fine. And by the way, I'm really in on Jalen. He's just, we saw this year sometimes, if you watch closely, the signs of a guy who hasn't played that much basketball, which is understandable. He hadn't played that much basketball until this year. So
he's got to get in better shape.
Yeah. And I also mean, by the way, I'm not saying this is always right, but if you watch what the team does and what Quinn says, they put DeAndre on those guys. Even when Jalen was available, they were putting DeAndre on the forwards, on the #1 guy when he was available.
Until V. Krejci showed up. And then V. Krejci was gone.
So your guy V. showed up.
Brad, don't deny that. That's not
they did, especially on smaller guys.
Quinn was putting him on the best guy, and he was like, he was putting Garrison Matthews. Honestly, he was also putting Garrison Matthews on sometimes.
Shouts to Gary Bird, legend.
He had Edwards in jail. Just saying.
Gary Bird did, or Pete did?
Both of them. They had
it was. By the way, it was terrible that game. Okay, so we talked around it. There'll be time to talk about the actual machinations, but that is an area if they're gonna be serious about improving.
And my point, my last point with DeAndre, he's wholly replaceable. I think that's what this season. What my point is.
Yes,
you can find. Is he going to be as good of a shooter as DeAndre Hunter? No, but you can find somebody who can do what DeAndre Hunter does for cheaper in free agency. The league is littered with guys.
I do agree with you, but again, someone has to want him. in a trade. And I don't mean that, and that sounds more negative than I mean it, but
it's
he's got 3 years left, 3 years, like 65-ish million left on that contract. It's not a total disaster. I've never, because it's not like a Ben Simmons where you can't move it. I'm not saying that. But if you, and the Hawks have always kicked the can on the road, they really like to wait till the last minute, as we've discussed many times, to make these transactions. If they're not willing to take a little bit of a haircut on that trade, they're not trading him. They're not getting positive, like clear positive value for DeAndre Hunter in a trade. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't really see that happening. So I still think it's likely that he is on the team for that reason. And again, I probably like DeAndre more than you do. I generally agree with what you're saying, and that he's not a game changer. He's just not. He's a plug and play forward. There's value in that.
I mean, my point is he's just somebody you got to look to upgrade. If you're trying to get to the next level, you need more. Either you need more defense or you need more shooting. It's not even more complicated than that.
And that's the whole roster too.
For as good as a shooter DeAndre Hunter came out to be this season overall, like for the type of player that he is, he has to be better. He has to be a better shooter. He's got to be a better defender. Like it can't, like if he was Herb Jones defensively, we're not having this conversation.
Of course not. And that's, look, they were hoping, this is different front office. They were hoping he was going to be that defensively. He's not. He's a useful defender. He is, but he's not a game changer. So I say all that. That's why I led with Trey DeJounte for part of that, because that also permeates every other discussion, because it's like, if they trade DeJounte, that could be part of what they do elsewhere, because they're going to, for DeJounte has positive trade value. They're going to get something good for DeJounte. I don't know if it's going to be picks or whatever. If they did that, they would get something positive that you could spin if you wanted to re-spin it to something else. But fundamentally, the challenges that are borne out by having, even, by the way, let's go beyond Trey and DeJounte. Let's say Trey, DeJounte, and Bogey as your three best guards. Having zero defense from those three guys makes life hard.
They need more grinders. They need more guys like I keep bringing Garrison Matthews' name up.
He had a good year.
They just need more guys who are willing to play hard all the time on defense. Even with Garrison, like what the ideal is Garrison, like Kobe Buffkin. Like Kobe Buffkin, what he was doing defensively, that's what they need.
There is a little bit, by the way, of a thing where, like, I'm not saying that you trade DeJounte because of Kobe Buffkin, but if you want Kobe Buffkin to play basketball next year a lot, the way to do that is to trade one of the guys in front of him. Because as long as Quinn has Trey and DeJounte, Kobe's not going to play that much. Yeah. He's just not. That's the reality. Because we've seen it. Quinn is married to the stagger. He's married to it.
If they are going to do that, they are going to have to get like some type of scorer back, which again, a scoring guard is the easiest thing to find in today's NBA.
Yes.
But like
that's great.
They are going to need, because like you don't want to overburden Kobe with too much offensive responsibility this early in his career.
Yeah, I just mean it's more of a logistical thing. Like I think we both really like what we saw from Kobe this year. Kobe's defense is going to be very, very intriguing offensively. I think he's got work to do, of course, but I like what I see, generally speaking. I just think logistically, in year two, he wasn't a lottery pick, but he was a fringe lottery pick. He was the next pick after that. I think that you would hope that guy's playing 20 minutes for you next year. But that ain't happening if they had Trey and DeJounte. It's just not. The minutes don't exist for Kobe to do that. I don't think. And if they have Bogey, because Bogey is going to be a 30-minute a game player. Bogey has earned that. Bogey's best role is sixth man. I think he's the best. I think Bogey has been the best reserve in the NBA this season. I actually believe that. Is he going to win the award? I don't think so. But anyway, do you want to talk about anything? I mean, we could talk about other decisions that, Jalen's extension's coming up. That'll be interesting. I don't know if they're going to give it to him. It's going to be a lot of money if he gets one. He will have earned a lot of money if he gets one. You got Sadiq. We talked about Veet. We referenced Clint briefly. Like, he's about to be expiring. Do they finally pull the plug? I don't know the answer to that. Onyeka, I presume, will be healthy at the end of the summer. We'll be ready to go again. He was in a walking boot at exit interviews, but I think he'll be fine. The draft pick, et cetera. Like, there's other storylines. There's lots of by the way, Garrison Matthews has a team option.
Easy pickup.
I agree with you.
That's easy. And that wasn't the case early in the season either. When the injuries,
And Bruno's not guaranteed. So just to say this out loud, Garrison is a team option that is also non-guaranteed. So they have like super power on that one. I agree with you though. Just pick it up. It's like $2.5 million. That's a bargain. Do it. Bruno's non-guaranteed.
Bruno's really interesting. I could see them. I could see them cutting him.
I could see that too.
I think with the more games you saw him play, like he's a useful backup big, but his defense is a legitimate problem.
He's a third center. I've said that. I mean, he's a fine-ish number 2 center. He's a good third center, and that's what we saw.
He's just not somebody you want if you're going to go with a Kongu for going forward, which I would. Yeah,
no.
If they're
I'll say this: if they were going to go with the Kongu as a starter, they are not going to have Bruno as the primary backup. That's not going to happen. Yeah, I would fall on the floor if they did that. I think if they go with the Kongu, it's going to be either they draft somebody in the first round, Klingon, Khalil Ware, whatever, or I would say
I would prefer they trade
something else.
I would prefer this is something I was thinking about. I'm like, could you pry Walker Kessler away from the Jazz?
That would be a good pairing with the Kongu for sure.
Is there a trade to be made with the Jazz to get Walker Kessler? Somebody who I think kind of showed his limitations this season without a Mike Conley setting him up on offense. Like,
yeah, he's not a great offensive player.
He's a very dependent player. He has flaws, but like pair him next to Trey, that could be something like as a backup.
The trouble there is that I don't know what you're offering that they're going to want.
I'm not saying it's realistic, but I'm just.
But saying, I'm with you. Someone like that.
I would prefer if they're going to get a backup that it's either a young guy who's got some who's been in the league for a couple seasons, who's played a lot, or a veteran, like if JaVale McGee was 29 years old playing for the Warriors,
and he's not, but yes, I'm with you.
100%. If you understand what I'm trying to say here, just
you
want a athletic, big, bigger guy behind a Kongu.
Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp, and sometimes you just have to get something off your chest. Whether it's big or small, certain things can actually really start to bother you if you let them. And sport let those things out, especially to someone who happens to be unbiased in your life as a listener. And sometimes today I will actually tell you about how I feel about something. And for maybe a few of you, in a similar respect, you might happen to understand that. And that's that I have some real unease about the next steps in the media industry right now. I'm not talking about Hawk stuff necessarily, just whether there's going to be jobs for people like me doing podcasts or writing across the world. And not the most intense thing necessarily in the world, the most life-altering topic for you in the same place, but therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us, including me, have bigger problems. That's stuff involving sports and media, but it is quite important to get stuff off our chest every once in a while. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule, and the place to go is BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Get 10% off your first month with BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA, and it's one more time. The URL is BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's show is brought to you by Monopoly Go, and I've been told about that I'm a competitive person. I definitely meant that. It's definitely the case, and I have a competitive side for sure. We all do on some level, I think, and my competitive side is also a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it at some point because it has been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great Swiss Monopoly. We actually not play just one time, but actually hundreds of game boards in crazy locations, putting up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part, honestly, is being able to mess with all of your friends. You can charge them rent on your iconic properties, just like in the classic Monopoly game. And you also rob their vaults of riches for yourself. And the leaderboards also show you who actually has to be the biggest Monopoly tycoon at that point in time. It's not just my competitive side that loves it as well. Team up with your friends if you want to have that experience. People also all over the world can be on your team in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game right now and join your friends in doing so by downloading Monopoly Go. Yes, you can download Monopoly Go right now for free on the App Store or Google Play Store. One more time, download the Monopoly Go app right now today.
The thing I just really wanted to harp on is with Jalen.
Yeah.
He's got to put in, like, he had a good breakout season, but like this is where he's got to put in the real work. Like this is when, like, it, because like to me it's interesting. We talked about this on ATL 29 about him needing to get in better shape, and the more I think about that, like that's what he's missing is the intensity level of Like he's got to be at like Giannis, LeBron level of physical shape, where he's running down up and down the court all the time, and he's consistently attacking mismatches instead of what he was doing last season. Because like too often he'd get a smaller guy, and he's just like, I'm gonna pass it. And
that was one of the knocks, by the way. I don't know if this is ever real, but like one of the pre-draft high school freshman year college knocks on Jalen was like that he floated a lot.
And he floated. You saw him float, and like I'm like, this is a fatigue thing. It could be a mental block as well that he has just because he hasn't played that much. But it's one of those things where you know the Hawks or guys in Jalen's camp talking about like if you want to be a multi-time All-Star, All-NBA type of guy, top 20 player in this league, you gotta be somebody who's relentless, like just full stop, like with your athletic ability. Because for as good of a shooter as you've gotten to be, you'll never be the type of like elite shooter. Whereas you can be an elite like fast break option, transition defender, all around like player. Like you can do that, but you gotta be in the best. You gotta be one of the best conditioned athletes in the NBA to be that. And I don't think he was there this season because
no, he's not.
When he came back, when he would come back from the injuries, he would have this initial burst of great play, and then you'll see it lag because he's getting tired. Because this is the most he's played ever. Like he only played 56 games. People gotta understand he didn't play. He didn't play his rookie season. Last year he only played until he really didn't play until Quinn showed up.
Yep, not much. Anyway. And
then in college, in his senior year, he basically didn't play. Like so it's been like 4+ years of him until this year not being a consistent 30+ minute guy every night. Like this is the first time this happened in a long time for him in his career, and he's still young, so that's good. But like he's got to getting better.
They do from what I hear, and look, I'm not there every day, but people have spoken highly of his work ethic. He had a good summer last summer. Everybody kind of knew that. Like he made the jump that he made because of that. He worked with Trey. Trey's no matter what you think about Trey works his behind off. Trey works hard. Trey's in great shape all the time. Him working out with Trey is a good idea. Those guys being close is a good idea. Once Jalen was pretty upbeat yesterday at exit interviews, like I think that obviously he ended the season hurt, but once he's back up and running, he seemed to be pretty like I think he'll be ready to go in a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks probably, of like 100% again. He's going to change shoes. He's talked about that. Maybe work ankle braces. I'm sure. I don't know. I'm not worried about. Okay, I'll ask you this. I'm not worried about the ankle yet. Personally, are you worried about the ankle at all?
No, I thought the ankle injuries were a fatigue thing.
And they'll also focus on it. They're going to strengthen it. Like it's going to be maybe. There's always a chance that it's a worrisome thing. I'm not saying there's not a chance. Like people that are younger than me will not remember this, but like there was a time when Steph Curry was like a terror with his ankles. Like he was always hurt.
LaMelo Ball right now. Yeah.
LaMelo Ball right now. Now, granted, that's a speaking of fatigue thing or not. He's not always been the most dedicated. Everybody always says about LaMelo. I don't know what's going on there, but no. And then Jalen big summer. I still think. I mean, you've used this term with me too. Like the ceiling raiser is Jalen in a lot of ways. And if the Hawks are going to be a contender in the next couple of years, a lot of that's going to tie to be. I think Jalen needs to be a star. Like an actual star, and he's not there yet. He's flashed it, but that would be a huge thing. I mean, it's hard to even reference because, like, and look, I always have my guard up on these things, but because of his pedigree and because of the talent level and the size, like Jalen actually has star upside. That is an actual thing that can happen. Like a lot of guys, you might think they might after good rookie seasons or whatever. Jalen has actual star upside, like top 15 player in the league upside if he hits it. I don't know if he's going to hit it, but that would be great for the Hawks if he did.
He doesn't have anything holding him back that suggests he can't get to
right. That's what I'm saying.
Exciting. Yeah. But, that Jalen's the most important. Like he's like the most important like player on the team at the moment because he's going to decide. He's going to decide if this team's going to be contenders with Trey on it or if they're going to go in another direction and do a
yeah.
Like that
For all the noise about Trey and DeJounte, and that is justifiably the number one talking point because it is a big decision they have to make at some point. Trey is awesome. We agree on that. We don't have to do that whole thing again. But we do kind of know what Trey is. Like, Trey is already established. We know what Trey is for the most part. Jalen's the guy who actually can send you high.
Yep,
because he's not gotten there yet. Before we get out of here, and we will get out of here shortly, just give me your temperature check overall. Part of why I have you all the time, not only because you're smart, but also I don't have the emotional swings anymore. I cover the team, and I want to know where are you with the Hawks on April 20th as we're talking.
I'm actively optimistic just because I felt that, one, the player development that they had this season, not just with the young players, but even with the older guys, was really good and really impactful. And like, I mean, again, to get what they got out of Vit Krejci, Garrison Matthews, even Kobe Buffkin and even Mo Gay for a little bit of a stretch, like what they got out of those guys due to what they did in the G League, due to what they did in development, and also the improvements Capella had on offense as a DHO guy, and somebody who can run other action besides just straight 1-5 pick and roll with Trae Young. Like, there's some positives. Like, Garrison Matthews got a lot better on both ends of the floor. Like, DeAndre Hunter got a lot better this season. Sadiq Bey, he wasn't making his 3-pointers, but he was a more impactful driver, and he was still good overall. Like, even though he wasn't efficient because he wasn't making shots, like, he was still, like, good. DeJounte Murray shot diet improved immensely. Trae Young's shot diet improved immensely. Like, it's why he made the All-Star team, because of how good the Hawks were at getting him open three-pointers, either through his self-creation or through his off-ball movements. So, like, there are positives to take out of this season from a lot of guys. And I feel like as long as the basketball people are able to make the basketball decisions, which I feel like they have been able to do since the 2023 trade deadline, I'm optimistic they'll be able to figure something out. Because, like, at the end of the day, you still got Trae Young. You still have the centerpiece cornerstone. Now you got somebody like Jalen. Can they build on what they seen this season? Like, you saw the success Vit Krejci had. Can you find another wing like that who might be a little bit more established, who might be better, who could potentially start? Or maybe Vit surprises all and is like good enough to start next season. Like, that's entirely in the range of possibility. He was really good at the end of the year. So I don't want to dismiss that as an option, but like, they got to get point of attack defenders.
Sounds familiar.
They got to get point of attack defenders, and they have to clear out the rotation so that those point of attack defenders can play. I think that's my biggest point, where like DeAndre Hunter could be on the trade. The trade DeAndre, it's not that he's not useful and impactful. The first thing is they have to be able to play somebody who can guard out in front so that the rest of the guys can set the defense and they can play an NBA so that they can play reasonable defense. Like, it's frustrating when you got bigs as good as Capella and Okongwu defensively, but you can't get stops because you don't have anybody out in front that can stop anybody from getting to the middle of the floor and collapsing your defense all the time. So until that changes, they're not doing anything or going anywhere. So they have to make decisions, whether it would be with DeJounte, DeAndre, Clint, et cetera, et cetera. They got to make decisions so that their lineups always have somebody who can put pressure on the ball. Always have somebody who can put pressure on the ball consistently so that the rest of the guys can help off their man and play proper NBA defense. Until that happens, they're going to be the same team. We've said this for like 2+ years now. This type of player we're asking for, they found it in Vit Krejci. Like, it's not hard to find.
Do I have to say the name out loud? Because I'll say it. DeLon Wright, baby. They had him. They had DeLon Wright.
The issue is you have to have minutes available for that player. Like,
that's Kobe. Kobe too.
That's Kobe
too. Like they have Kobe showed this last. Obviously, he's not a wing size guy, but he's a big guard. Who can really defend. But as I said earlier, the only way to play Kobe Buffkin, what he probably needs to play, is to not have one of those 2 point guards because he's point guard. He's a point guard size guy still.
And that goes to the point where like you got to clear out the rotation of. And to me, the guys who are the obvious guys are DeJounte and DeAndre on the perimeter. Capella's a separate issue. It's just
that's
you don't need like Capella Okongwu is nothing more. It doesn't matter. Like it's not even about talent, fit, any of that. It's just you don't need 2 starting centers. No team needs 2 starting centers. You can get away with having 1 center and a backup play 10, 12 minutes a night. Like that. That's how every other NBA team does it.
Most of them anyway. Yeah. Not the Knicks, but everybody else, basically. All right, Tyler. Well, let's get out of here. Again, caveat: we record this on Saturday. It shouldn't change until Monday. But anything to plug? But I'm watching the playoffs next 2 days, personally. But I don't know what's going on in your world.
I don't know. I gotta avoid the NBA for a couple.
Well,
I gotta avoid Twitter because I'm not trying to see what everybody's saying.
Oh, that's the right move, by the way. It is.
Of course.
It is all time bad right now on Twitter. I have to say, and I get it. The influx of people that don't always pay attention at the end of the season, they arrive between the playoffs and X interviews, all that stuff. The takes are.
I mean, there's nothing to say to those takes because a lot of them are just founded on people who aren't watching. Like, and you can tell by the tenor of what they're saying they're not watching. So it's like, why am I going to get upset over opinions that aren't reflective of reality? So
I envy your mentions. Your mentions are much better than mine because you don't.
Well, and I also don't read them all. So unfortunately,
and people have to request to follow you, and like it's just a smaller community that you're dealing with.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway,
but only thing I had more animes, but then I forgot their names.
That happens. We'll do it next time then.
Delicious in Dungeon on Netflix. If you're not watching that, you got to be watching that. It's really good. That's probably my biggest recommendation. There are of course other stuff, but I'll have more. I'll have more in the offseason.
We're gonna do. I'm gonna ask you to come on again relatively soon. I know that you'll start watching more draft guys at some point. I know you watched some probably before.
Matas Buzelis.
I like him quite a bit as well. We'll get into that. We'll have you and I will do a draft focus episode at some point in the next 2 months. The Hawks, again, as I said on yesterday's show, if you missed it, only have 1 pick now, and it's their own pick. That's the entirety of the Hawks draft right now. They have no second rounders, no Kings pick this year.
They're not
so
getting that Kings pick,
spot.
Guys.
I have that fear as well, but we'll talk about that later too.
they had their glory last year, and it's over. It's over.
Yeah, that was poorly timed. All right, man. Well, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. If folks want to follow Tyler, if he lets you on social media,
not my fault.
At Jonesy2x4. I recommend that if he lets you. He's got a day job and things, and I just appreciate him doing this show. And also, we mentioned it, but ATL 129, Tyler's doing a lot there too with Kevin and Glenn. Awesome show. There's plenty of room for all the Hawks shows. I went on Bryce Lewis's show this week. I'm Believe in Hawks. It was a fun talk we had for about an hour. I know Mikey and Tim are doing a good show. Like there's all kinds of good. Edwin, everybody does good shows. So check them all out. Subscribe. Thank you again to Tyler. We'll see you all next time.